My mother-in-law hid my passport before our honeymoon. Surprisingly, karma hit her back fast. My mother-in-law, Denise, never liked me. From the moment I met her, I could tell that I wasn't going to win her approval. And over the years, her cold and distant attitude towards me only deepened. She made her feelings clear in the most subtle ways, but I never imagined it would go this far. The morning of our honeymoon, when my passport went missing, I blamed the chaos of the wedding. I had never even considered that Denise might be behind it. However, when the truth came to light, it was more shocking than I ever could have expected. And karma, as they say, doesn't take long to catch up with those who try to harm others. I had been in a relationship with Ethan for 5 years before we got married. 5 years seemed like more than enough time to get used to his mother's subtle digs and disapproval. Denise never truly accepted me, no matter how kind or patient I tried to be. At the beginning, I chalked it up to her having a hard time letting go of her baby boy. But soon enough, it became clear that her behavior wasn't just about that. Our engagement was a happy moment for Ethan and me. We were both excited about the future, eager to begin our life together. However, for Denise, the announcement was a different story. From the moment we shared the news, there was an unspoken tension in the air whenever we all gathered together. She would make snide remarks, often masked as compliments, that seemed to always put me in an uncomfortable spot. She once told me, "I'm just worried that Ethan might be too young for such a big commitment. You should be careful." Every comment, every look, seemed to show me that she wasn't fully supportive of our relationship. When we started planning the wedding, things didn't improve. I thought once the big day was behind us, things would calm down. I was wrong. Instead of finding peace, I found myself facing a mother-in-law who only seemed to double down on her disapproval. Her helpful suggestions for the wedding were nothing more than veiled criticisms of my choices. It wasn't until our honeymoon was approaching that I began to realize just how far Denise was willing to go to keep her hold over Ethan. We had planned for a dream honeymoon in Bali, 2 weeks in paradise with my new husband, relaxing by the crystal clear waters, hiking through tropical jungles, and soaking in the beauty of the island. It was the perfect escape after the chaos of our wedding. The tickets had been booked months in advance, and I was counting down the days. But then, something unexpected happened. Denise found out that our trip was scheduled during her birthday, and everything changed. She had always expected Ethan to prioritize her, but now it seemed she wasn't willing to share him with me, even for a couple of weeks. "Your mother's birthday is important," she said with an edge in her voice when Ethan casually mentioned that we'd be gone during that time. "Surely you understand that family comes first, right?" Ethan tried to reassure her, telling her that we couldn't change our plans. We had already booked the tickets, and they were non-refundable. But Denise wasn't having it. I could see the flicker of annoyance in her eyes, and it was clear she wasn't happy with the situation. "Sweetheart, you'll have plenty of time for beaches and sun. But remember, a son only gets one mother," Denise added, turning her eyes to me with a chilling intensity. Her words were a sharp reminder of how much control she still believed she had over Ethan, even as an adult. But Ethan didn't flinch. He stood firm, telling her that we were going on our honeymoon, regardless of her feelings. I thought that would be the end of it. After all, we were adults, and we had made our decision. But I had underestimated how far Denise was willing to go. The morning of our flight, excitement was in the air. Our bags were packed, our tickets ready, and the only thing left to do was grab our passports. Ethan had already checked his, and I was about to check mine when panic set in. My passport was nowhere to be found. I checked every drawer, every bag, every place where it could possibly be. Nothing. "Ethan," I called, my voice shaking with panic. "I can't find my passport." He looked at me, concern immediately replacing the excitement on his face. "What do you mean?" "It was right here on the counter." We searched every corner of our apartment, and the minutes slipped away. The flight was in just a few hours, and without my passport, we couldn't go anywhere. Ethan's frustration grew as he tried calling the airline, but it was clear there was no way to get a new passport in time. The dream honeymoon we had been waiting for seemed to be slipping away before our eyes. Denise appeared in the doorway, her face full of sympathy, but I could see the flicker of something else behind her eyes, something I couldn't quite place. "Oh no, what happened?" she asked, her voice sweet, but I could sense her curiosity. "We can't find Vika's passport," Ethan muttered, pacing around the living room. "Well, you know these things happen with all the excitement," Denise said, her voice dripping with false concern. "Maybe it's just misplaced. Have you checked every bag and every corner?" I felt a cold chill run through me. Something about her tone didn't sit right. I had been organized and careful with everything. I knew I hadn't misplaced my passport. Still, I kept my thoughts to myself, not wanting to stir up any more tension. But my heart was sinking. and I couldn't ignore the unease growing inside me. Ethan was still on the phone with the airline, but the situation was becoming increasingly dire. The minutes were ticking by, and we had no solution. I felt the weight of the situation pressing down on me, suffocating me. Everything we had planned, everything we had worked for, seemed to be slipping through our fingers. And then Denise, sensing an opportunity, suggested, "Why don't you come with me on my birthday trip, Ethan, while Vika gets her passport sorted out? You shouldn't waste the time off." I could barely hold myself together at that point. Ethan looked at me, torn between his duty to his wife and his mother's manipulations, but I could see in his eyes that he knew what was happening. He didn't want to leave me behind, but I could see he was being pulled in two directions. "No," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Go. I'll be fine. Just go." Denise quickly jumped on the opportunity, practically skipping to the car to pack. I watched, numb, as she loaded her bags into the trunk, the last shred of my dream slipping further away. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Ethan. "You won't believe what just happened," he said, sounding alarmed. At the airport, something had gone terribly wrong. Denise, eager to enjoy her day, had been stopped at the security checkpoint. There was an issue with her passport, and when the TSA officers began searching her bag, they found something strange. Ethan noticed my passport in her bag. "She took it," Ethan said, his voice filled with disbelief. "She took your passport to stop us from going on our honeymoon. She really did it." I was stunned. "What? Are you serious?" "Yes, and now she's in trouble. They think she was trying to commit identity fraud. She's being questioned." My heart sank as the truth became clear. Denise had deliberately hidden my passport, all to prevent us from going on our honeymoon. I could hear the anger in Ethan's voice as he recounted what had happened. He was furious with his mother, but he also felt betrayed and hurt. "She's being interrogated, Vika. She's made this 1,000 times worse for herself." As much as I wanted to feel bad for Denise, I couldn't ignore what she had done. She had crossed a line that couldn't be undone. I never thought she would stoop to something so cruel, but I was wrong. Ethan wasn't about to let her sabotage everything we had planned. "Pack your bags," he said firmly. "We're going to Bali tonight. Our honeymoon isn't canceled. It's just delayed." By the time we arrived in Bali, Ethan and I had had time to process everything. The whole situation had been shocking and painful, but the moment we arrived at our resort, a sense of calm washed over me. We were in paradise, far from the manipulation and drama. As we relaxed and explored the island, Ethan opened up about his childhood, about growing up with Denise. She was always like this, possessive, controlling. She didn't want to let go of me even when I was an adult. When we got engaged, she cried like I was leaving forever. I could see the pain in his eyes. "I never imagined she'd go this far," he admitted. "But this isn't just about the honeymoon. This is about her not accepting that I have a life of my own now. A life with you." We had a quiet dinner that evening, watching the sun set over the horizon. The calm of the waves crashing against the shore seemed to mirror the peace I was finally beginning to feel. Despite everything Denise had done, Ethan and I were stronger than ever. The next few days in Bali, though beautiful, felt like they were part of some surreal dream. While the pristine beaches, vibrant markets, and lush jungles provided a perfect backdrop for a romantic honeymoon, the weight of what had happened back home hovered over us like a storm cloud. Denise's actions had cast a long shadow over what was supposed to be the happiest time of our lives. Every time I tried to let go of the situation and focus on enjoying our time together, I would remember the look on Ethan's face as he discovered my passport was gone. That combination of disbelief and heartbreak. And when I'd think about how my mother-in-law had manipulated her way into ruining our trip, I'd feel a surge of anger that I hadn't allowed myself to process fully. Ethan, though, had taken a different approach. He was focused on moving forward, trying his best to block out his mother's behavior. But I knew him well enough to see the cracks in his facade. His eyes would cloud with frustration every time Denise's name came up. And though he'd brush it off, I could tell that this was no small thing for him. This wasn't just about the stolen passport. This was about a lifetime of emotional manipulation finally coming to light. We spent our days exploring the island, diving into the crystal clear water, and hiking through the tropical jungles. Bali was stunning, the kind of place that made you forget all your worries, even if only for a moment. We laughed, we talked, and for a brief while, the joy of being together took precedence. I tried to convince myself that everything would work itself out, but every evening, as we relaxed on the balcony of our resort, watching the sun sink into the ocean, I would see the way Ethan's smile faltered whenever he looked at his phone. He was waiting for that call, the call from his mother, and when it finally came, it wasn't unexpected, but it still stung. On the last day of our honeymoon, as we packed our things, Ethan's phone buzzed. I didn't need to look at the screen to know who it was. His mother had finally decided to reach out after several days of silence. I could see the hesitation in his eyes as he stared at the incoming call. "You don't have to answer it," I said softly, though I knew deep down that Ethan needed to have this conversation, even if it was going to be painful. He took a deep breath and hit the speaker button. "Hello, Mom," he said, his voice tight. For a few moments, there was silence on the other end of the line. The air seemed to hold its breath, and I couldn't help but wonder what was going through Denise's mind. What did she think this conversation was going to achieve? Did she really believe she could manipulate her way back into Ethan's life without consequences? Finally, Denise's voice came through, softer than I had ever heard it before. "Sweetheart, we need to talk." Ethan's jaw clenched, and I could see the anger flickering in his eyes. "About what?" "About what happened at the airport, and about us," Denise said, her voice trembling slightly. Ethan exhaled, his fingers tightening around the phone. "What is there to talk about, Mom? You stole my wife's passport. You tried to sabotage our honeymoon. You almost ruined everything." I watched as Ethan's face hardened. He had already tried to explain things to her, to make her understand that her actions weren't just cruel, they were selfish. But Denise was persistent. She had a way of twisting things, of making everything seem like it was somehow our fault. But Ethan was different now. He had finally realized what his mother's behavior had done to him, to us, and he wasn't going to tolerate it anymore. "I was just worried about you," Denise began, her voice cracking. "I didn't want to lose you." Ethan's face twisted in disbelief. "Lose me? Mom? You've been trying to control me my whole life. You don't love me like a mother should. You love me like a possession." There was a pause. I could hear Denise's quiet sobs, and for a moment, a wave of guilt washed over me. As much as I hated her actions, part of me still felt sorry for her, for the fact that she couldn't accept that Ethan had grown up and had a life outside of her influence. But the other part of me, the part that had suffered under her manipulation, felt only anger. "Ethan, please," she pleaded. "I'm your mother. I just wanted to spend time with you. Can't you understand that?" "No, Mom," Ethan said, his voice steady and firm. "I understand that you want to control me, and I'm done with it. This isn't about you. This is about me having a life with my wife, a life that doesn't revolve around you." There was a long pause, and I could feel the weight of the silence between them. Denise's sobs became quieter, more desperate. It was almost as if she were trying to turn the situation into something that could garner sympathy, but it was too late. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness," Ethan continued. "I'm asking for you to respect me and my boundaries. I'm asking for you to accept that I have a life with Vika. And if you can't do that, then I don't know what to say." Denise's voice trembled again, barely a whisper. "I don't want to lose you, Ethan. I don't. I'm sorry." "Mom," Ethan said, his voice softening, "but I need to go. We're done here." The phone clicked off, and silence filled the room. I looked at Ethan, my heart heavy with the weight of the conversation. He had said what needed to be said, but I knew it hadn't been easy. There was so much history between them, so much baggage that had built up over the years. And yet, in that moment, I knew he had made the right choice. "Are you okay?" I asked softly, taking his hand in mine. Ethan looked at me, his eyes tired but resolute. "I will be. I think I finally am." It wasn't just about the passport. It was about breaking free from the toxic hold that Denise had over him for so long. It was about claiming his own happiness, his own freedom. And for the first time in a long time, I could see that Ethan was ready to let go of the past. The rest of our honeymoon passed in peaceful bliss. We had 2 weeks of uninterrupted time to reconnect and rediscover the joy of simply being in each other's company. The island's beauty became the perfect backdrop for the healing that was taking place, both in Ethan's heart and in mine. We spent our days wandering through local villages, exploring ancient temples, and relaxing on the beach as the sun dipped below the horizon. Each day, Ethan seemed a little lighter, his shoulders less burdened, as though the conversation with his mother had lifted a weight he had been carrying for years. One afternoon, as we sat on the beach watching the waves roll in, Ethan turned to me with a smile that reached his eyes. "Thank you," he said quietly, his voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for not letting me go back to her. Thank you for being by my side through all of this." I smiled, squeezing his hand. "You don't need to thank me. We're in this together, always." When we returned home, life slowly began to return to normal. We picked up our routines, unpacked our bags, and adjusted to being back in the reality that awaited us. But then, one morning, as I was getting ready for work, the phone rang. It was Denise. And this time, Ethan answered it without hesitation. I listened in from the other room, unable to shake the feeling that something important was about to unfold. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said." Denise's voice came through, softer than ever, and I realized that I've been wrong. "I've hurt you, Ethan, and I'm sorry." I don't want to lose you. Ethan was quiet for a moment, absorbing her words. It's going to take more than words, Mom, he said finally. It's going to take respect. It's going to take time. I understand that, Denise replied, and I'll do whatever it takes. I just don't want to lose my son. The conversation ended with a sense of tentative hope. It wasn't a resolution, but it was a start. Maybe, just maybe, Denise was finally ready to accept that Ethan was his own man now, with his own life, his own boundaries, and a wife he cherished. In the end, our honeymoon wasn't ruined, nor was it perfect. But it was a turning point in our relationship. We had faced the challenge of dealing with a manipulative mother-in-law, but through it all, we came out stronger. Our marriage was not just about love, it was about respect. About standing by each other even when the world seemed determined to tear us apart. As for Denise, well, she wasn't done yet, but Ethan had drawn a line, and with that line came the possibility of healing, on both sides. The future was uncertain, but for the first time it was ours to define, and together, Ethan and I were ready to do just that.